Hey there, neighbors. It's a little bit late this time for our Stampin' Sunday video. Thank you for joining me here at Crafting in My Corner for Stampin' Sunday. Tonight we are going to make a card using the Back on Your Feet stamp set, and we're kind of going to wing it. So we'll see where it goes. I'm so glad you could join me tonight. I'm Alicia Dolan, a Stampin' Up! Independent demonstrator. And we're just going to go ahead and get started with our card for tonight. So I will get the camera set up and meet you at the crafting table. Okay, so tonight we are going to use the Back on Your Feet stamp set, and this piece of designer series paper is from this pack, which is called Bloom Where You're Planted. Now, this is the first time I've used this paper, but there are a lot of really pretty sheets in here. I'm not going to show you them all right now. If you want to see those, let me know. But since we are winging it tonight, we're just going to go ahead and get started with our stamping and see where it goes. So I have a piece of Evening Evergreen here that I'm going to use for the base, and I'm going to cut that at 5.5 so that I have a piece that's 5.5 by 8.5. And now I'm going to turn it this way, and I'm going to score it at 4.25. And the Stampin' Up! Trimmer has both a cutting and a scoring blade. So if you're looking for a trimmer with both, you can easily find that. All right, I think you can see that there's a little crease mark there down the center, and we're going to fold it. And we're going to press that crease with our bone folder just to make sure it's folded really well. And next, we are going to cut a piece of this designer series paper at 4. And the designer series paper this size is 12 by 12. So if you cut it in sections of 4, you can get quite a few pieces out of it. I'm always trying to look for ways to make the most of my designer series paper. And then I'm going to turn it sideways, and I'm going to cut at 5.25. I don't think you guys can see my trimmer tonight. I've kind of moved my my setup around a little bit so that, well, I'm just trying new things to figure out what works best. So there is a piece for that. And then I really wanted to use this little sloth right here. And on the outside, I would like it to say sigh. And then on the inside, I'm going to stamp, which I almost never stamp on the inside. But I'd like to stamp this. Sometimes that's all there is to say. That, and I'm here for you. I just thought that was a really nice sentiment. Hi, Kim. Thank you for joining me tonight. We're using the Back on Your Feet stamp set. Okay, so I am going to get out my little sloth, and I need to find a piece of basic white that will fit him. or I need to cut one. So let's see what I have over here in my stash. And I save almost all my scraps. You haven't seen it? It is in the regular catalog. This annual catalog that's good through next April. It's May 2021 to April 2022. And I just looked it up. Back on Your Feet is on page 85. Let's see. And it's right here. And it makes some really cute little animal sets. I've used it before. It's one of my favorite sets because it's kind of cute and it's funny. You know, it has a little bit of puns in it, and we like puns around here, so it works good for us. All right, so I think this piece that I had in my pile is gonna work pretty. Oh, it might be a little too small. Hold on. Let me see. Maybe I'll just turn it this way. And it could be, I'm gonna put it up over here to measure it. Just give me a second. All right, so I'm gonna make it about 3 inches by 2 3/4. You can use the animals for lots of occasions. I just think they're so cute, and sloths were really big for a while. Everybody just loved them. The giraffe is really cute too. All right, and let me grab my Stamparatus because tonight that is the easiest tool for me to use. All right, oops, I keep bumping into the camera. See, I'm gonna figure out where is the best place to put the camera, but so far, I've just moved it around and around and around. All right, so this is my Stamparatus, and when I use the rubber stamps, I take this foam out. You don't have to, but I find that my images are stamped a little bit nicer when I do. And I generally have at least 2 pieces of grid paper in here. If you don't have grid paper, you can use copy paper. But it just helps me a little bit because, oh, I almost put that the wrong way. I'm going to put it with the 3-inch side, so the little bit wider side this way. Because my sloth is wider than he is tall. All right, and then I'm going to stick my magnet on here. The magnets are really strong. That's getting back to the reason for the grid. Use that. Yes, you can use it for the clear stamps. That's what it's meant for. Because the clear stamps don't have that foam backing. So if you're using the clear stamps, then you definitely want to have this in there. I always put a piece of grid paper over the top just because I like it for lining things up. You don't have to use it. All right, so then we bring our plate down, and the Stamparatus has it comes with 2 plates. So you can use 1 plate or both plates. I need to see what's going on here on the back of mine because I feel like either my table is crooked or my Stamparatus is crooked. I'm not really sure what's going on, but hopefully my image will stamp just fine anyways. All right, and I'm going to use Tuxedo Black Memento ink tonight because I'm going to color in my sloth a little bit with the alcohol markers. They don't call them alcohol markers. They call them Stampin' Blends. All right, so I'm going to tap my ink all over my sloth until he's good and covered. And the nice thing about the Stamparatus is if you don't get a perfect image the first time, you can add a little more ink and you can stamp in the same spot twice. So we're just going to press gently in the center of our image. And then when we lift up, the magnet will hold our paper in place and our image comes out nice and tidy. So we're going to take him out of there. And I'm going to use my chamois real quick to, oh, it's getting dried out. It's been a couple days since I stamped, so it does dry out a little bit in that case. And I usually wash off my chamois about once a week. But I keep a spray bottle down here in my crafting corner so I can just give it a little spritz in between if it gets a little too dry. Now, if your chamois does dry out and it crunches up, you can always put it in some water. I just fill up the sink and I let it sit in there for a minute and it soaks up that water and goes right back to the way it's supposed to be. All right, let me set that aside. And I'm going to put my sloth back in his case. Actually, maybe I'm not because I might use him one more time. So I'm just going to set him on the top for now. And I'm going to move this to the side in case I need it again. And then we're going to color our little sloth. And I have 3 different colors of Stampin' Blends tonight. I have the crumb cake set. It does. It gets really hard. Thank you, Amber. I appreciate that. Okay, and I have a Stampin' Blends that is Mossy Meadow. Oh, see, I keep banging into my camera. I'm going to have to find a different spot for it. But I'll figure it out. And then I have Stampin' Blends that are light cinnamon cider. Now, the colors that are actually in this paper are the Evening Evergreen and Garden Green and I think just Jade, but I don't have those colors in the Stampin' Blends yet. So, I am using what I have. So don't be afraid to do that. If you don't have exactly what I'm using, use what you have. Okay, and we are going to color here by his eyes. And right now I'm using the light. Stampin' Blends come in 2 packs and they usually come with a light color and a dark color. I think the one exception to that is like a light and a dark of the same shade. The exception to that is the ivory and bronze set, which are meant more for skin tones, and so that's why they're the colors that they are. All right, so we're just gonna color him in. And you'll notice if you're coloring with these that their colors are really smooth. You don't have to work hard to get them to blend at all. So I'm coloring him. And then I'm gonna go in with the darker Stampin' Blend marker. And I'm just gonna get the parts of him that would be shaded. I say him, but it could be a her too. I don't know how to tell the difference with a sloth. So there. And I know it doesn't look real blendy right now, but give me just a minute and I will show you what we're going to do. So once you get the darker shade in where you want it to be, that way you can help it to look like it has a little more depth than it would otherwise. So I think, let's see, let me get a little bit here by the edges of his eyes. The stamp is shaded, so you get a little bit of depth anyways. Now you can go back with your light Stampin' Blend and just kind of go around those edges, and it'll blend it even further. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. The weather outside was beautiful today. I was not outside anywhere near as much as I wanted to be, but that's how it is sometimes, right? Oh, I think I missed that leg. All right, let me add a little more dark to this one. Just here. Maybe a little bit right there. And then I'll go over it with the light one and kind of blend it in. All right, and there is that. And then I'm going to use the Mossy Meadow for the leaves. And I'll start with the light one. And I might not even use the dark on those. That'll save me a little step because they're small, so shading them is not, it doesn't show up as much as it would if they were big old leaves. And then I'm going to use the cinnamon cider for the branchies on. All right, and then I'll add just a little bit of the dark to make it look like my branch is round. A giant paper cutter. Okay, this is actually, let's see. This is my mat here underneath, and then my paper trimmer is right over here to the side. So I just put it next to my mat in my, oops, I think I might have just stuck that in my ink. I did. Of course I did. Hold on, let me wipe that off, because if I put that down, I just know that ink is going to be everywhere. And I didn't close up my ink pad, so that's going to be a disaster. I've managed disasters fairly well most of the time, but when it's ink, there's no going back. So if I ruin something important, then I will probably be sad. All right, now I'm going to put that back, and I'm going to close up my ink pad. Helpful hint, everyone, when you are done with your ink pad, always put its lid on, especially when it's permanent ink. Okay. So let's add a little bit along the bottom of our branch of the cinnamon cider. And I don't think we really even need to blend that one in. Okay, and then on here, now that we have it colored, I probably should have added it earlier, but maybe I'll stamp it on a little separate piece. Okay, now I'm going to cut a piece of Evening Evergreen to go around my little sloth. So I have a piece right here, and I said that the sloth is 2 3/4 by 3. So my piece of Evening Evergreen is going to be 1/4 inch larger than that on each side. So we're going to go 3 by 3 1/4. Alright, and then we have this little extra piece left over. We're going to turn our sloth over. And I don't know what color his toenails would be. Maybe I should just grab a dark brown to color them. Let's see. I want that. Okay, and here's an early espresso. I forgot to show you guys, on the Stampin' Lens markers, they do have 2 ends. So this end is a brush end, and this end is a pen. So if you have to color, they're very similar to the Stampin' Write markers, where one end has a brush and the other end has a pen. So I'm just going to use this pen end to color in his toenails. I think I probably could have left them the way they were, but they looked like they needed something to me. So I'm just going to color them in real quick. All right, and these Stampin' Write markers you can get in a set of, you can get all the colors, or you can just get the color family that you're looking for. You can get neutrals or regals or subtles. Okay, now you can see on the back of my coloring that it does bleed through. So if you were trying to use it for something where both sides would show, you'd have to cover that up somehow. All right, and then I'm gonna grab my liquid glue, turn my sloth over, and the liquid glue is my favorite because you can adjust a little bit when you're using it. You can slide your pieces around and kind of fudge them a little if they don't go exactly where you want them to go on the first try. So I do a thin line around the edge, and then I always do a squiggle in the middle to hold it in place. And I store my glue this way, so I have a little dish beside me that I sit it in, so that it's always pointy side down. And then I can turn that over and line it up so that it's centered, and then see how you can kind of wiggle it just a little before it dries. And then you want to press it down good. And let's see, I have some ribbon that I just got that will be pretty. It's actually meant to be Christmas ribbon, I think. It is, let's see, it's Evening Evergreen. Oh, maybe, I don't know if, well, I hope I'm supposed to use it because it is from the new catalog that's coming out on the 3rd. I think I'm allowed to show you things I've made from the catalog, but I'm not allowed to show you the pages inside it yet. But you are gonna like it. There's some really, really pretty things in there. All right, so what I am gonna do is I'm gonna cut a piece that's long enough to tuck behind, and I'm gonna trim it right here. And then for ribbon, I always use these mini glue dots. I like to take my ribbon and press it on the glue dot roll and then peel it off. So there's one, and I'll put one on for the middle, and then one on the other end. And then I'm going to line it up so that it goes kind of along the edge. And I'll press it down. And then I can just fold the top over and fold the bottom over. And I always try to press the ends so that they stay a little bent. And then I can take the ribbon again, slide it under, and I'm just going to tie a little knot. All right, and I have to move it over there because it's trying to get in the way. Okay, and then we can trim our ends. I think I'm using my older scissors because they're not quite as sharp as my new ones are. I always have to keep several pair in the basement. I know, the glue dots are great, aren't they? They work the best for ribbon, by far. You know what's funny is when I worked at the scrapbooking store a long time ago, we used to call them snot dots because that's kind of what they look like. Okay, so now we're going to turn our paper over, and this side of the paper is really pretty too. It's like a little brick wall. It's really cute. And I'm going to use my liquid glue again all the way around, and I'm just going to run right over the ribbon because I want it to be stuck in there really good too. And I do a line around the edge and then a squiggle in the middle. And I don't just say that out loud when I am doing the videos. I actually say that to myself every time I put the glue on the back of a piece. So I really do tend to talk to myself a little bit while I'm crafting. It's okay though. Sometimes I'm kind to myself and sometimes I'm not. It just depends on how well my projects are going together. Okay, and then we're gonna put him on here, but we still need our little sigh. So let me grab my Stamparatus again, and I'll just open it up and take the foam out. Now you will notice that one side of the foam has this little Stampin' Up! Label in the corner. It's actually dented right in there. So when I'm stamping, I don't know if it matters or not, I always turn it to the other side. Okay. And let me get my little tiny pieces of white. And I cut a lot of white, and so I have lots of these little pieces. And I am going to stamp before I trim, just to make sure that I don't go crooked and have to start over. Okay, and here's our stamp set over here. I am going to use this sloth again, but I'm going to put him back for now because he might get lost if I don't. Okay, and now I'm just going to set this right here. And this is the really nice thing about the Stamparatus is even with a little piece like this, I can line it up right where I want it to be and get my image just right. Most of the time. Sometimes it still doesn't work out, but it's a great helpful tool. And so now I'm going to stamp with Evening Evergreen. You could stamp with the Memento Black again, but I don't want to this time. So this time I'm going to close my ink up right away so that I don't get it on everything else. And lower my plate and just press it gently in the center of the stamp. Lift it up and it looks just right. So I'm going to clean that off. And then while I have my Stamparatus out, I'm going to do a couple extra steps. Oh, you like the Stamparatus too, Kim? It really makes a huge difference in your crafting. I find the amount of times I have to start over are far fewer because of it. Even with the photopolymer stamps, sometimes even though they're clear, I can't get them to line up exactly the way I want them to. But with the Stamparatus, being able to line them up first is a huge advantage. And if you do get a Stamparatus, and get some of this washi tape and put it on your magnets, because it makes them so much easier to pick up and hang on to. They're really strong and they will snap into whatever is nearby. In fact, the other day I sat one on my table, and because there are metal legs underneath, it spun around and relocated itself. Okay, now before I move on to the next step, because I want to stamp the inside of my card, I'm gonna get that ready right now. So I'm gonna cut a piece that's 4 by 5 1/4, and this is just my basic white. All right, and see, now I ended up with another one of those little scraps for words. That'll just go in my pile. And I'm gonna put this right on here and try to line it up so that I know kind of where the middle is. And then I want to stamp up a little bit so that I have a little room to write underneath. So we're gonna put Sigh on the outside, and we're on the inside we're gonna put Sometimes That's All There Is to Say, and That I'm Here for You. So we're gonna put it kind of in the middle up here. I'm trying to see if that's even. So if my head gets in the way for a second, I apologize. There, I think that's straight. And we'll pick that up. And I think I'll stamp this in black. So I've got my Memento Tuxedo Black. Sorry you guys, I just got a frog in my throat or something. Or maybe my throat's just dry because I'm talking too much tonight. Okay, so, and remember when you're inking up your stamp, you want your stamp to be flat and your stamp pad to be flat. And you just want to tap, tap, tap. Okay, and then I'm going to close that up and set it to the side. Oh, you know what? My U looks a little like I got a little too much ink on it. So I'm not going to stamp, I'm going to clean it off and I'm going to start over. And since my chamois isn't super wet, it won't leave any smudgy marks. Okay, I'm going to ink that up again, because I think I must have held my hand uneven the first time. So I'm just going to tap it till it looks like it's covered. That looks good. Close out my ink, and I can bring the plate down and press in the center of the stamp. And that's it for that. And then I'm going to do one extra step on this one. So I'm going to take my words off and I'm going to put them back. And I keep my stamps like this. I keep the rubber behind them so that they all kind of stay in their place. And then usually I keep the cover sheet that came with them, because these are really sticky. But I didn't learn that until after my first couple sets of these new cling stamps. And then I'm going to grab my little sloth again. And I want to set him on there just so that his little leaves stick on the page. And not really his head. So he's off the edge a little bit. Okay, so we'll pick him up. And then I'm going to use the Evening Evergreen. And I'm just going to get that ink on the leaves, mostly. And I'm going to stamp right here at the top. And then I'm going to scoot my paper over a little. Clean off my stamp. And I'm going to move it to the other side. Like right here, I think. And we'll pick him up. And put a little Evening Evergreen ink on his leaves again. And I got a little bit extra on there this time, so I'm just going to stamp really gentle. There we go. And then that just adds a little extra leafy stuff on there inside, what'll be the inside of our card. And where did okay. I thought I got out my envelopes, but then I couldn't find them real quick. So lately I've thought it's kind of fun to take the front of my envelope and stamp a little something on it. So, and since he goes this way, I'm thinking maybe we'll put him right down here in the corner. And I always try to make sure that it's out of the way of where the actual stamp will be. Usually I try to do this corner, but because of the way that he's laying, I think this corner will be better. So we'll stamp him. Ink him up with some Memento Black. All right, and then I'm gonna put my plate down, press in the middle. Okay, and then we're all done with our stamping. So I'm gonna clean off my stamp and put it away, right away. Oops, and it looks like I didn't put my other one away yet. My little sigh. Okay, that goes in here. And I can put my chamois away and close up my Evergreen ink, Evening Evergreen. And then I can put this aside. And we'll just do a quick little coloring of these. I'll use some Mossy Meadow here on my leaves. I got a little carried away there and I went outside the lines a little bit. Try not to do that, but sometimes I still color outside the lines. Okay, so there's our inside ready to be put together. We'll color a little bit on our envelope. And I think when you get a fun envelope that's colored a little bit, it's kind of a neat little touch. All right, so we'll color our little sloth. And then I'll put a little cinnamon cider on the branch. Sometimes when I'm planning ahead, I do all my stamping first and then color everything in and put it all together. But sometimes I'm not thinking that far ahead. So I need to trim my size. So I'll line it up on my trimmer. And it looks like I could go with about 1 1/4. So those pieces that I end up with are usually about 1/4 of an inch. So here's that, and I'm gonna put a little green piece behind it. So I need it to be 3/4 by 1 1/2. Is that right? It looks almost too small. Nope. Okay. So we'll turn that over. Put a little liquid glue on it. Now this is a small piece, so you don't want to get too much glue. If you get too much, it will ooze out or make your paper a little bit wibbly. So it's better to err on the side of less than too much. So we'll set it right in the center. And I didn't set it in the center, so luckily I can scoot it just a little bit so that it goes right. We can open this up and turn our inside piece over. And then we'll put a little glue around the edge and then a squiggle in the middle. And we'll line that up on this side of the card. And like I said, I hardly ever stamp the inside of a card, but this one just seemed to be the right saying. Okay, so now we're going to take our little sloth and turn him over. And we are going to put some Stampin' Dimensionals on his back. So we'll put one on each corner. Not right in the corner, but kind of in a little bit towards the middle. And then, because I'm using the little ones, the mini ones, I'm going to put one in the middle. Just because I don't want the card to squish flat in the mail and then it might get squished fat anyways, but at least I'm trying to plan ahead. So we're gonna put him right here. And then I'm gonna turn this over. And I'm gonna put the Stampin' Dimensionals kind of near the top, but kind of in the middle at the same time. So right about there. And then I can set it right here, just a little bit off. And there we have our card for tonight's Stampin' Sunday video, featuring the back on your feet set and the bloom. Let me double check the name again because I already forgot 100%. Bloom Where You're Planted Designer Series paper. So if you are interested in any of these things, let me know and I will get an order in for you. And remember that the new mini catalog and celebration are going to start on August 3rd, which is Tuesday. So I kept thinking that Tuesday was the 2nd, and it's not. The 2nd is tomorrow, and August 3rd is Wednesday. So be on the lookout Wednesday for all of the specials and the new stamp set. There's some really beautiful stamp sets, and for every $50 order you place, you get a free item from the celebration flyer. And if you are interested in joining Stampin' Up, this is the only time they've ever had a second celebration. So celebration is the best time to join. Anytime is a good time to join. You get $125 in product for only $99. It's a great deal. And if you join during celebration, you also get to choose an extra bundle. So I think it's a stamp and punch or stamp and die set bundle. But I will list the list of those on Wednesday, right? Because Wednesday's the 3rd. We just talked about that. And thank you for joining me tonight. I hope that I will see you back for another Stampin' Sunday video next week. Have a great week, you guys. Happy stamping.